Okay folks, so I'm back here on our project with our tank and fenders, and what I've done while I've been off camera is I've prepped all my bodywork areas with filler and then touched up any small areas I might have with some glaze coat. So I've got this fender all set, the spots where I put some bolts in to cover my bolt holes. I've taken my bolts out, I've taken a little Dremel tool and I've chased out all my holes. I got all my edges sanded by hand. I've de-8'd it down with 80 grit sandpaper just to blend all my plastic body filler in with my bare steel and get rid of any rough scratching that I had from when I sanded all the paint off of it. So you can see my fender is here, my front fender is there, and I'll grab the camera and I'll show you what we're looking at. So I got some spots on the front of the fender. When they crimp this fender, sometimes it gets a little wavy in there, and I just kind of had the chance to smooth that off. This is where we lost the rivets on both sides, and you can see how that's nice and smooth. I got it on these jigs that I made, so it's nice and easy to work on the stuff. This is my bottom area where it was a little wavy. It's a little funky around here. The taillight comes way up around here like this, and you wouldn't see it, but I just did it just to smooth it off. It's pretty easy. If you'll notice, you'll see some remnants of some pencil marks I had. What that is when I do my body work and after I get it all nice and smooth and sanded with 80, I'll blow it off really good and I'll look at it real close. And what I'm looking for is pinholes. And whenever I find a pinhole, I'll circle it with my pencil, and then I'll come back with some glaze coat and fill in those areas so that you won't see those afterwards. So you see, here's my rear fender. It's looking pretty good. And then over here is my tank. My tank turned into kind of a little bit more than I anticipated, but this is the way things go. This is just a skim coat, a glaze coating here. You can see those pencil marks like I just showed you a minute ago. I got done with the tank and I had a few pinholes I wanted to take care of. Mostly all of this is glaze coat that I put over the top just to really make the tank nice and smooth. So I got my tank all set. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to take all these parts. I've already blown them off real good. You can see my bench is all taped down with fresh paper. I got some reused paper on here from the last paint job that I did, but it's relatively clean. I'm not really worried about it. This is just going to be a primer coat, so a little bit of dust here and there isn't going to be all that critical. So I'm going to wash this down with some pre-cleaner wash. Then I'm going to spray all of my pieces with a anti-corrosive primer that what it does is it prevents corrosion. It also allows for maximum adhesion for the primer to the metal. It actually etches into the metal. Once that flashes and dries off, I'm going to use a high build urethane primer. I'm going to put 2 to 3 coats of that on all of these pieces. Then we'll guide coat it and we'll sand that and we'll see where we're at. More than likely it'll be all set. I might have some touch-up areas I may have to do for some scratches, maybe some grind marks or something that I didn't see. But overall, it's looking pretty good. So I'll come back on camera once we get the anti-corrosive primer on there. I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll move on to the regular primer. Howdy, folks. So I'm back now with my project. Like I explained earlier, I got 3 good coats of urethane high build primer on all of my pieces, my tank, and my 2 fenders. What I'm going to do is I got some black, just some random black enamel in a spray can kicking around here, and I'm going to dust it onto these parts and use it as a guide coat. So basically all I'm going to do is just kind of hold it back here like this and lay it on these parts like you see here. And what this does is it just gives me what we call a guide coat. I know it doesn't look like much, but what's going to happen is when I sand these pieces, anywhere that this black paint is that's in a low spot will appear. So I'll sand my black off. Anything that's showing black shows that I need to sand it further. So I'm going to dust over the tank, we'll let this flash off, and I'll sand a little spot and I'll show you what it looks like so you get an idea of what it's like to sand once you've guide coat. Okay folks, so I'm back. I've let my guide coat dry, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sanding this. I've decided I've got another helmet project over here that I know I'm going to have to prime today. So what I thought about was I looked at my surfaces here and I said, you know, I can knock this down really quick with some 150 grit sandpaper, get this prepped, I can prime all my pieces, then this stuff will definitely be sweet, and I'll be that much closer with my other project. Always try and like add in extra projects while I'm doing it, because it's like an economy of scale. If you're going to mix up the material, prep the shop and everything, get your gun together and everything to spray the stuff on, it's not that much work to do 1 or 2 additional pieces as you go along. So that's what I've decided to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand on this just a little bit, and then I'll show you what the guide coat does. So I've got a 150 grit sandpaper. I got this soft sanding pad here, and I'm just going to sand on this. And I'm just going to sand enough so that you can see what this does. Here we are here, and if you look at the surface, you can see all of these areas that are still black are all low spots. So what I do is I just sand, and you got to sand every which way when you do this, so that you don't end up creating lines one way or the other. And then once you get to this point here where it's pretty well all smooth, you know you're in good shape. So when you start out, it goes like this, and it looks like that. All of these are scratches. You want to sand all that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of these pieces. I'm going to sand out all these pieces really good with my 150, and then these will all be ready to be reprimed. I'll work this the filler and stuff that I got on my helmet. I'll sand my edges off, and then that'll also be ready for primer. So I'll prime my helmet and all my pieces, and then when I'm done, I'll probably have to do another application on my helmet. But when I sand these for paint, I'll sand my helmet for the next application at the same time. So it's always a constant overlap of work, because I always have all these other projects going on. So I'll be back once we get it all prepped. My next segment, I'll come up with a paint design. I know I talked about doing black with some flames. I'm really not sure if I want to do that. I'm going to do these tins for probably another Sportster project. Thinking about buying. We'll see what happens. But, you know, it's part of the deal. You kind of figure out what you want to do. I'm wide open. I paint it whatever I feel like, and I was feeling the flames there for a little while, and maybe now it's scallops. I don't know. We'll figure something out, but once I get it all prepped and ready to commit to the next paint job, I will do a segment on the actual paint job. So this segment here will conclude. This is taking it from, you know, damaged parts to ready for paint. So really it's another application of primer, sanding it with 400 to 600 wet, and then this will be ready to go. So I'm really glad you watched. Always check out my my YouTube videos, my Facebook page, vtwins2v8s.com. You can also check out our website, vtwins2v8s.com, and check out our blog posts. And you know, we always got a project on there, another bike. You never know what's going to be going on. And you know, I sell all kinds of parts and things like that. So appreciate you tuning in, and thanks an awful lot. Have a great day.